Hey, one more thing before you go. Do you want to know what it's like working as a woman in a male dominated environment such as the Secret Service? How do you get there? What do you do once you get there? How do you overcome the thick testosterone in the air? Stay tuned because in this episode, we're going to have a conversation with a woman who dreamed of being an FBI agent at a very young age. She went on to work as a Secret Service agent in the White House, no less, to being an author of her first book, Talkback, Barbie, the Secret Service edition, where you get a first-hand account of how she handled it all. I'm your host, Michael Hurst, and this is The Thing About Talkback Barbie. Lauren Lusby Fernandez graduated from Virginia Tech with a political science and a pre-law degree. She went to work for the Secret Service in Washington, D.C. She trained at the elite Federal Law Enforcement Training Center as well as the James J. Rowley Training Center. She's been a consultant at a firm in McLean, Virginia. She's worked with the Department of State, the CIA, and National Counterterrorism Center, as well as other intelligence communities. In January of 2021, she self-published her first book, Talkback Barbie, the Secret Service edition. It's a comedy about her experience working with the Secret Service as a girly girl, as she calls it, and how she got where she is today. Her life motto is, if you trip and fall, laugh first, then get up and keep going, because the only way you fail is to never get up. This is One More Thing Before You Go. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You know, I really appreciate your background and where you've come from, and I'm really intrigued by your nickname, which we'll get into, and how you acquired that, and how you went from Secret Service to an author.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Well, I appreciate it, and I respect your background as well. I think you are incredible for what you went through.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We share a bond, a law enforcement bond. That's yours was a little. Yours was really interesting. Mine was okay interesting, but yours is really interesting.
Well, I made it interesting only because I couldn't keep my mouth shut and I was always in trouble. So I have a whole different take on law enforcement than you probably did. You were probably way more serious.
Well, sometimes we still had fun. It was the cop humor still played its part
You
throughout my
do.
career.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's what's so funny. The book does shed a lot of that, the background of law enforcement, that the side of it that nobody sees. They don't see the pranks and the jokes and everything like that we do behind the scenes. They see us
the
when we're serious.
yep, the human side. The human side. We're human. We're all human.
Mhm.
So let's kind of start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. So I was born and raised in Georgia, and that's actually where I am now. But after college, I moved up to Northern Virginia and started working with the Secret Service. And I went to
So
Virginia Tech, and I graduated with a political science degree.
so before, let's go back just a little bit. Do you have any brothers and
Yeah,
sisters? Because
I do. I have one sister. So it's just her and I. She was actually a news reporter. She lived in Texas, California, and Florida.
a whole bunch of different places. I know you and your sister got in a little bit of trouble when you were younger. I read that in part of the book that you sent me, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit because she kind of covered your butt
She did. She was
just a little
very
bit.
good at that.
So did you always want to be an FBI agent?
I did. So at the age of 10, I decided I wanted to work for the FBI. My dad was never let us down. Like, he constantly was asking us, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be? Where do you want to go grow up? When you grow up, what do you want to do? And so I had to have an answer. So I'm constantly thinking, and I'm like, well, I can't really be a waitress. I can't do this. What interested me? And what interested me was law enforcement. I saw all the TV shows. I read all the books, and that was so exciting. So I decided at age 10, I was going to be an FBI agent and work for the Violent Crimes Unit. I wanted to solve crimes, especially about serial killers. For some reason, their mindset really interested me. And that was something that I set off to do. So my whole path forward after age 10 was to become an FBI agent. That's one reason I couldn't get in trouble. I got in trouble, little things, but legally in trouble. So hence the story you're talking about with my sister. I couldn't get arrested for trespassing.
No, arrested for trespassing would not be a good way to get into law enforcement.
No.
It wouldn't do that way. It's an interesting approach, wanting to be an investigator at that early age, especially with something like investigating serial killers. Did you even think about going into profiling in the FBI? Is that what you were interested in?
Yes, all of that. So, I mean, I was just going to kind of take a route and figure it out. I mean, obviously at 10, you're too young to understand what all that involves and what's all involved in becoming an FBI agent, but it just excited me. I also knew it was going to be challenging. I was into a lot of sports when I was younger, so I was physically active. So I knew that being a good athlete was going to benefit me in the future. I knew that I was going to be able to accomplish all the physical sides of law enforcement because of my background in sports.
Can I ask why you, now obviously you know that I'm a retired law enforcement sergeant, and from the time when I was young, my father was a journalist. My family wanted me to be a journalist. And I tried it, and I kind of went to school for it in the beginning, and I said, nah, I really want to be a cop. And it just intrigued me to be a law enforcement officer, and I wanted to be a sergeant, and
Exactly.
on up the line. So why not regular law enforcement? Why the FBI?
I did look at regular law enforcement, and that was a goal as well. But my dad just kept striving the point that if you're going to go and be in law enforcement, he's like, go federal. Federal, they made a little bit more money, but they had a little bit more jurisdiction, and there was just a lot more involved. And so he kind of pushed me and suggested that I go federal. I did intern with the Gwinnett County Police Department here in Georgia, and I interned with the Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office as well. So I did get background with local police departments before, obviously, I joined the Secret Service. This was my background, my internships to put on my resume to go and apply for the Secret Service.
So you went to college, but you didn't. Your major wasn't law enforcement or criminal justice. It was computer.
It was political science.
Political science.
Yes.
So
political science, legal studies. So basically pre-law.
Pre-law. So you feel is it now I'll just say regular law enforcement. We always thought the FBI, they were the elite of the law enforcement, right? You look up to the FBI.
Correct.
Even
so that's one reason. Right. I wanted to be like the elite. Like if I was going to be in law enforcement, I wanted to be the one that everybody wanted to be, which was the FBI. Like if you think of the FBI, everyone just thinks you are just a powerhouse. Like you can rule the world kind of thing. And so I think to me that was very interesting and excited me to know that I would be part of an elite group.
Yeah, it's interesting. Every time one guy would show up, I worked several task forces. And when the FBI used to show up as part of the investigation, it was like everybody kind of looked at the guy walking in the room or the woman walking in the room.
Yes. You just wanted that jacket with the big yellow FBI on the back.
Exactly. It's like, come on, man. I just let me go work for just a day.
I know. That's why I wanted to have such a clean and perfect record, because they're so strict and it's an intensive selection process. And the reason I did pre-law was because at the time, I'm sure they're different now because this was 15 years ago, but at the time they wanted people who had four different majors. They wanted computer science, they wanted lawyers, they wanted, what was the other one? Biochemistry, and they wanted accountants because they needed those for specialties, and so it was something I tried to do. So when I went to college, I tried all four of those majors. And that's the comedy in the book, is that I was not cut out to do any of those majors. I wanted something to stand out and pop on my resume, and I couldn't accomplish it because I couldn't pass the classes. So I ended up discovering that I was good at writing and reading. And that's why I went the political science route, because there was a lot of reading and writing. And I was good at that. Hence, I ended up writing a book.
Well, exactly. It had its ultimate purpose. How'd you end up
It
with the Secret
did.
Service?
So when I was in college, you have to apply 9 months before graduation if you wanted to go straight into the Secret Service right out of college. And I did. I needed a job right out of college. So I started doing my research on federal agencies that allowed newbies like myself, somebody who just came from college, has really no law enforcement or military experience at all. And I discovered that the only two agencies that really hired with no experience was the NSA and the Secret Service. So I applied to both of those. And the paperwork is incredible. It is long, it is daunting, and it takes forever. But I applied to both of those and went through the process, went through both polygraphs, and did not make it through the NSA after the polygraph. And that story is in the book as well. It's another comedy part of my life where it's I just like to laugh at my mistakes and learn from them. And that was one of the stories that I really learned the most about myself. And that is, again, hence the nickname Talkback Barbie. I'm not good at keeping my mouth shut. And during that polygraph, she kept questioning me about my drug usage. And I had never done drugs at all in my life. And she kept questioning me, and I didn't understand what she was doing and why she kept going on and on about this question that I knew I had never done. And so I started just telling her everything known to man. Oh, I painted in a closed garage. I watched my friends hand out their illegal prescription drugs in college. She's like, no, specifically to you. I mean, I just made up every story I could possibly think of that could maybe answer her question. And come to find out, after a time, I ended up discovering that she really just wanted me to answer, no, I have never done drugs, and left it at that.
Wow.
But I'm not good at that. I'm not good at short answers. I wanted to explain myself, and I wanted to tell them why I was right and why I didn't do drugs, and she had me all wrong. But that is not what they want. They want somebody because what happens if I'm undercover and I'm out there and they're like, this girl is going to give us up because she can't keep her mouth shut. So
yeah, we can't put you in vice.
That's why I failed.
Yeah. No vice and narcotics for you. We don't want you to talk too much. We understand.
I mean, unless they need somebody that they'll be like, that girl's too dumb to be an undercover officer.
So what's the process of getting into the Secret Service?
So the process is long. You fill out a federal form. It's called the SF-85, I believe. It could have changed names, or 89. And it's like a stack of paper like this thick. I mean, it is everything in your background. If you've traveled internationally, every location you've ever lived at, then they have to investigate your friends and your families and your neighbors. It is just a long process. Once they approve your application, you then will have to do a little test. So it's a reading and writing kind of comprehensive test. It has a little bit of math on it, has a little bit of just questions that are just kind of like, can you spell this word correctly? Stuff like that. I didn't know what was on it before the test. So I go in, I pass that. Once you pass that, you go through a situational awareness testing where they ask you, and you have to think on the fly. It's like, what would you do if you are in a movie theater and there's a fire? How would you get everyone to exit the building? How would you get them to leave without causing a big scene? And you have to, on the fly, eloquently explain why you would do this and give them a good enough reason, how you could be interpreted correctly or handle a situation under stress when you had to, man a huge crowd. So they did about 3 of those questions, I believe. And then after that, you had to do the polygraph, which is a nightmare. I'm sure I take it you've done a polygraph before?
I've done several of them. Actually,
Yes.
I worked for two different agencies, and I had to take polygraphs for both of them.
Yes, and they're nightmares. I mean, you can have the most crystal clear background ever, and you still feel like you are a failure. And I have a chapter that's called Was it a liar? Let me see what it was. It's basically about being in it's the polygraph, a druggie, a liar, or talking too much. And it's just really funny because that's how they make you feel. They make you feel that you are what they're telling you you are. So they could, if it's about the drugs, like what was my situation, they made me feel like I was a druggie, like I was a drug user, and I had never done drugs in my life. And then there was, other questions that they ask you, and you just feel like this horrible person, even though you have this stark white record. So it's very difficult. But once you pass the polygraph and you get through that nerve-wracking test, you are then accepted and you go to 6 months of federal law enforcement training.
See, that's a huge difference, even in the law enforcement community. Usually we go 18 weeks, 24 weeks tops for
Right.
a police academy, which, and nowadays, a lot of them want college beforehand anyway, and they prefer
Yeah.
a criminal justice background. When I went in,
Of course.
they liked it if you had a college background, or they liked it if you had a degree in criminal justice, but it wasn't necessary at that time. And you still went through, I think I believe my first one was probably 18 weeks long.
Wow.
When I went to
Yeah,
the
I mean,
academy.
that's still a really long time, 18 weeks. And we did 6 months. So we had about 3 months at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, down in
Right.
Glencoe, Georgia. And then we had it was probably a little less time at FLETC than at JJRTC, which is the James J. Raleigh Center it's up in Maryland.
Right.
And so we did a little bit more there. So probably a little over 3 months, but it was a total of 6 months of federal law enforcement training. And it's intense. I mean, I found a new person inside me when I got through that training. I wasn't that person when I entered, and I left a completely different person. So it does change you.
I've had friends of mine that went on to become chiefs, assistant chiefs, and captains and things that have gone through the FBI National Academy, and they've come back going, this was nothing like their regular police academy when they had gone through
No,
it.
it's not. It really isn't. I mean, I think it's extremely intense. And granted, it needs to be. I mean, you're protecting the president of the United States. But don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying any law enforcement officer. I
Right.
mean, I respect law enforcement and the military more than anything, because to me, they're the most important people out there. I mean, they're the ones protecting us, our neighborhoods, our friends, our family.
Right.
They're so important. And they don't, honestly, my personal opinion, they don't get paid enough for what they have to endure. And their life is at risk every single day. And that's very hard. So my mom struggled with that, knowing that I wanted to go into this kind of field. She was like, please don't do that. Like she didn't want me to do it. But at the same time, I just knew it was a desire of mine. Obviously, my dreams changed. I'm obviously not in law enforcement now. I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff. But my dreams changed because I chose my family over that kind of life. And you obviously know it's very difficult. Shift work, being called at any time.
Yep.
Your life is in danger. And if I was going to be the mom I wanted to be, I knew I wasn't going to be able to have both. I couldn't do that. I do believe it's easier for a man. And I'm not downplaying women in this career at all. You can do it. It's just that this is me personally, I chose to have a family over my career. So, and I know some people choose careers over. It doesn't matter. It's your personal choice.
I respect that. I mean, the situation is any kind of law enforcement, whether it be from the state level, the local level, or federal level, is very difficult on a family life. If you're single,
Yes.
great. It's like exciting. It's motivating. It's inspirational. You get to catch bad guys. Your adrenaline rush. But when you have a family and you're thinking about that constantly, it has an effect on you as the officer, no matter what level you're at.
That's correct.
Or agent, as well as the individuals that are waiting at home for you.
I know, and that bothered me a little bit, and I didn't want that. So I made a decision and I went with it, and I don't regret it. I think that it is when God gives you something as precious as a child, I just knew that I needed to be everything I could for him. And what's funny is he hears these stories about me being the Secret Service, and he wants to be a police officer now. That's what he tells everybody. Or he wants to go in the military, he says, because he wants to fight.
Hey, you've inspired and motivated your child. That's
So
what
I'm
we are as
like,
parents.
go at it, buddy.
That's very cool. Well, talking about Secret Service, most everybody's familiar with Secret Service because they do protect the
Yes.
President of the United States. My first experience with Secret Service was I was actually picked. You know how when the president visits the city for something,
Yes.
they vet officers to go work the detail that escorts the motorcade and so forth to these different locations, as well as do the exterior security on that. I got picked twice for that, which I was very happy about.
That's
One
really
with
cool.
George H.W. Bush. That's how old I am. And Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush.
That's really
So
cool.
on both of those, it was really outstanding because I got to see the Secret Service work from that perspective, from the inside
Hmm.
out. I was on the
That's
same
amazing.
floor. Yeah, it was a highlight of my career, actually. One of the highlights of my career. I've got a couple of America's Most Wanted, so I had to put that up there too.
That is
But
even cooler.
eh, it's I'm grateful for my career. I really am. But I got to watch it from the inside out, and I get to see that working from the inside out.
Mhm.
How the floors were protected, how the hotel top 2 levels or 3 levels of the hotel were taken
Yeah.
completely over, kind of a situation. And I got to experience that. But the Secret Service doesn't only protect the United States president. They do the they work with the Treasury
Yeah,
Department and they do other things. Correct?
correct. And the Eisenhower building, which is right beside the White House up there as well. So
So
they protect the Treasury, Eisenhower, and the White House. Obviously, the VP residency as well, and the foreign mission branches all around DC. So I was actually a uniform division officer. So I was stationed at the White House. So my one regret with the Secret Service that I have to say is because I was newly married, I declined traveling. And I really wish I had gone on a couple of trips. It's just, I was married young. I wanted to be at home. It was just, again, it was just this tug of war with personal life versus your career. And looking back, that was the biggest mistake I made. I should have gone on these trips and traveled. Now, the positive side is that on these trips, this is why there's a high divorce rate within law enforcement, is because on these trips, there's a lot of cheating going on.
right,
So I'm very glad I didn't get involved in any of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I missed the opportunities to be able to travel to different states to figure out, or different locations internationally, wherever they were going, to figure out and really see firsthand how they vetted and how they really secured the parameters.
right. It's an interesting process. I mean,
It
I would have
is.
enjoyed that completely myself. I would have enjoyed that as
Yeah.
well.
Well, my friends would come back and tell me all the stories and tell me all about it and how they did this and investigated that and went to, the 12th story here to make sure that there were no access to snipers anywhere and,
Yeah.
had to get the best views of everything. And it was really cool.
It's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Are most people that work for the Secret Service? I know that the guys that protect, or the guys, when I say guys, I mean the women and the men that
Mhm.
protect the president and the vice president are obviously in a suit. They're not uniformed when they go
Correct.
out.
The agents are in suits.
The agents are in suits. So what's the difference between the uniform and the agent and the Capitol Police?
Yeah, the Capitol Police is completely separate. They are not with the Secret Service at all. So the agents are the ones in suits, and they travel all the time. So they're at different locations all the time. They're the ones who are usually closer to the president as well. They're the ones usually driving the motorcade. So the uniform division are the officers that are stationed. So if you go to the White House, they have all these posts around the White House and different foot beats and stuff like that. Those are uniform division officers. They're not in suits. They're in white collared shirt, button-down collared shirts, short sleeve or long sleeve, depending on the weather, and black polyester pants and boots, usually sunglasses and a hat. So those are uniform division officers up at the White House, and that's who I was when I was working at the Secret Service. But that doesn't mean I couldn't go and protect the president as well. I had some posts outside on the south lawn where I was stationed, and that was where Air Force One would pick up the president. So I was there when the president would walk by to board Air Force One or to walk his dogs, anything like that. So I did get to see the president. It just I wasn't manning him like the agents would. You see the agents outside of when they get out of the limo, the agents are standing there vetting and making sure nobody suspicious is around. Those are the agents. So that's the difference.
Yeah, it's a distinct difference, but it's all one team.
Yes. Oh, no, totally one
Yeah,
team.
absolutely.
You
Absolutely
work together. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes the agents would come, like if we had a big event at the White House, agents would come and stand and man post right beside us. So they would be doing the exact same thing as us. They would just be in suits and we would be in our uniform. So same team, we work together for the same mission. Obviously, protect our country and protect the President of the United States.
Yeah, that's an outstanding job. So obviously, thank you for doing that. That's
Thank you. It was an incredible experience. I have to say, it's something that not many people can do, but I had a whole different take on it. I was put in a whole different light. It wasn't, people discriminated against me based on the way I looked. They didn't think I could do it. They didn't think it was going to be possible. They really I had a technician who tried to pretty much the minute he laid eyes on me, I hadn't even spoken yet. He tried to get me kicked out of the Secret Service. He was like, she is not going to pass training. She is not going to graduate. She is not cut out to be a uniform division officer. So I had these huge obstacles put in front of me before I even started. And the problem is I already had a lot of obstacles. I had to pass shooting. I had to pass physical training requirements. I had all this stuff I had to pass. And yet he's giving me even more obstacles and more things to fight for so that I could graduate and carry a badge and gun and work for the President of the United States. So it was definitely very challenging. And I discovered a lot about myself, that I'm a fighter. And the more you tell me no, the more I'm going to tell you, listen, I'm going to prove you wrong, because I'm not going to let you tell me that I can't do something. The minute someone says that, I'm like, okay, let me prove you wrong.
Well, that makes you a strong woman. It makes you a strong person, and it makes you a strong cop all the way around. Because I have two daughters, and I have taught my daughters to empower themselves, to be themselves, and to not let anyone stand in their way. And
That's perfect.
in law enforcement, unfortunately, especially back when I was a cop. I mean, I've retired for a little while now, but and still to this day, excuse me, there's a stigma still around female wearing a badge and a gun, and there are
That's
still
correct.
these. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but there are still the old school cops who don't believe that women should be in law enforcement, and it's really a
Right.
shame. They're finally being weeded out, and they're being retired, and they're being pushed aside, for a new
Yeah.
generation of individuals. So many people. The Phoenix has a female police chief who I've met several times. Wonderful woman, wonderful police chief. Not only is she a woman, she's black. And
Yeah,
she struggled to get to that job. She worked for the Phoenix
you
PD as
do.
a cop, a street cop.
Yes.
She went to Oakland for a while. She worked her butt off in Oakland. And then when they had an opening here, she came back. She became, she had left here as a sergeant, went to Oakland, then came back.
Yeah,
And when she came back, there was room for her to start moving
that's
upward,
great.
because the people that were standing in her way before had retired and moved on.
Right.
And I've had partners that were female I'd get in a fight with somebody, and I had female partners that were down there with me, and I
Hmm.
had male cops who were standing over there looking for their flashlight. I won't mention
No, that
any
is
names.
great. Love it. Right. No, no names. My book has no names in it either. I have funny titles for them. That's it.
Exactly,
I
but
get
it,
it
yeah,
is hard.
it's
It's hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's hard to think about me taking on a 200, 300-pound person. Obviously, I will need help. That's why you have partners and you have backup,
okay.
because of that reason. But it's not to say that we still can't do that. We can still
Exactly.
accomplish the same things. For instance, in the book, I tell a story about when I'm doing the shooting ranges. And It's really funny because so we would be put in like very stressful environments and have to shoot at the different targets and drop a gun, reload, drop a magazine, go to different stations to shoot. Well, in those environments, women actually did better and got better ratings than the men did. Whereas if we were just standing on the shooting range, the men did better just standing on the shooting range, shooting at a target that's just sitting there. Where women were better under stress and were, I guess, more confident. I only had one other girl in my training class. So for us, it was just us two. And we seemed to do better and get better scores when we were in stressful situations, which is it's very interesting to think of that. So women sometimes can handle stressful situations better than men can. Maybe we can think on our toes a little bit faster. And I'm not categorizing. I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm just saying it seemed like, based on my experience in the Secret Service with my class, that it was women handled stressful situations a little bit better than the men did, where the men handled just the training better, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, men are taught to react, and react quickly, and not just as a cop. You get anger shows up quicker, temper shows up quicker, these kind of things. And women tend to think about it beforehand. They think of options, and they strategize a little better, I think, than men in certain situations. So kudos.
We try to. I mean, we have to balance life, work, children, dinner, putting dinner on the table at night.
So you had mentioned this a couple of times already, but let's get more detail about your reputation as Talkback Barbie.
Of course. Oh, Lord. My reputation as Talkback Barbie, as you can see, it's me. Since I was in high school, elementary school for that matter, I would get kicked out of class all the time for talking. I would interrupt the teacher. I'd be talking in the back of the classroom, not listening. My mouth was constantly getting me in trouble, and it never changed when I went into the Secret Service. It wasn't very smart of me, because I went into a military environment where you're supposed to say, yes, sir, no, sir. And I went in thinking that it was okay to question officers and sergeants and technicians when they were telling me to do something. Now, granted, if you read the stories in my book, they're hilarious, but I was right to question him because he was actually wrong. But the problem is that I never know the right time to be able to do that. You can't just always question everybody. Sometimes it's easy and better to just sit there and say, yes, sir, and go about your business. Well, I was not good at that. So I was constantly writing memos and talking back. And in this instance, after my class was doing another training session, they heard the sergeant or the technician yelling at me half a mile away. They, after that, dubbed me as Talkback Barbie. But it's funny because in the Gwinnett County Police Department, when I was interning, I worked for them. And the minute I walked in, they started nicknaming me Malibu Barbie. And every day when I would wear something different, they would call me some other name. Camo Barbie, military Barbie, funeral Barbie if I was wearing a black dress that day. It didn't matter. So for some strange reason with law enforcement, I've always had the Barbie nickname and title. So nevertheless, the reason the book is titled Talkback Barbie is because that was my legit nickname at the Secret Service. Everybody, when I was working there, and they probably still know the stories, I was titled Talkback Barbie. So people didn't even know me as Officer Lusby, which it changed to Fernandez, obviously, when I got married in the Secret Service. They knew me as Talkback Barbie. So before I had even started work at the White House, I went up to the gate to kind of get my bearings because I was going to start work the next day. I wanted to know where I was going for roll call. I didn't want to be late. It was my first day at the White House. I was very excited. And I go up to the gate and I asked the girl, hey, I'm Officer Lusby. Can I have, can you help me with where I'm supposed to go for roll call tomorrow? I'm just talking to her. And she goes, what's your name? And I was like, Officer Lauren Lusby, class 177. She goes, oh my gosh, I know who you are. She goes, you're Talkback Barbie. She had never met me, seen me. She just knew Officer Lusby was Talkback Barbie. And that's what they knew me as. So there you have it.
Your reputation preceded you.
It did, unfortunately. The great thing is, even though that was my nickname, I didn't let the nickname define me. You could look at it as it's a negative title. You could feel insulted by the nickname. I took it and ran with it. I love the title. I love the nickname because it does define me. It defines me because I do love to talk and I love to talk to people. And yes, sometimes people might think I look like a Barbie doll, but I don't care. They're going to find out that once they get to know me, they will never judge a book by its cover again, because I am the complete opposite of what you would consider a Barbie to be. I am tough as nails. I've got super thick skin. I never cry unless it's something super detrimental. I am tough as they come. And it's just really funny because people will judge a book by its cover and, nickname Talkback Barbie. And then they get to know me and they're like, you are nothing like that at all.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, Barbie is known worldwide. So
Yes, it is.
you have that in the corner, right? So now
I
Talkback
do. I
Barbie
do.
with your new book will be known worldwide. How long
I'm
did you
hoping.
take?
I'm shooting for it.
How long did you stay at the White House?
I was only there for a year and a half. So I wasn't in the Secret Service very long. And that was my second mistake. I left the Secret Service too fast. I was bored, like we talked about with all the pranks and the jokes and what you do in your downtime, because people think Secret Service, law enforcement, it's active all the time. You're chasing bad guys. You're doing all this stuff. Probably local law enforcement is more active than Secret Service. So we're trapped in these boxes, rotating posts. And if the White House is being protected correctly, then there's nothing going on and you're bored. So I was bored. I would get in trouble all the time for falling asleep on post because you shift work, you're rotating all the time. You're working 12-hour shifts. I mean, it is monotonous. So I got bored and I jumped at the first opportunity right beside the White House, near the White House, actually. And I took a job with a law firm. And that was a huge mistake. So I should not have done that. I should have stayed in the Secret Service and waited to get a government consulting job, which is ultimately what I wanted to use my clearance for. But I jumped at the opportunity because I was tired and bored and I wanted regular routine. And I wanted to be home for the holidays. You work every single holiday. I could never see my family on holidays.
Yep.
Your vacation could be canceled in a heartbeat. Your days off could be canceled. Did not matter. They did not care. And it wears you down. I was there for literally a year, but you are worn down. It aged me probably 5 or 10 years just in that 1 year of work because of you're not eating regularly. You're not eating healthy because you're just trying to grab and go. Your shift work, so you're not getting consistent sleep. You're not working out consistently. It's just terrible on your body. So that's why I really admire people in law enforcement who are doing this till retirement. It's a ton. It's a lot on your body, your family, like we talked about before. It's a lot.
Takes a toll. Almost 17 years for me. The shift work, the having to leave my dinner,
Yes.
leave my lunch,
Yep.
not having a moment to eat my lunch or dinner in peace because somebody's constantly walking up and going, "Hey, I got this
Right.
ticket," or "Can you help me with this?" or "My neighbor's doing this. What do I
Mm-hmm.
do?"
You're
It's
right.
like I'm trying to eat lunch, or I'm trying to eat breakfast, or I'm trying to eat
Right.
dinner, consistently. Plus, you also have, well, this is your story, and I'm throwing into this because it just brought back
It's
these
okay.
memories. I can't tell you how many restaurants that we walked in with my family, and we sat down, and I look up and see the cook, and I go, "We're leaving." And my wife goes, "Another one that you arrested?" "Yes."
Oh
Because,
no.
yeah, you see somebody you arrested that works in the restaurant. Well, I'm not going
And they
to,
remember you.
yeah. So I'm not going to
You're
sit
a
there
face they're never going to forget.
and, so I shut down a Pizza Hut once.
Oh
The
my
driver
gosh.
had a warrant, so he arrested the drivers. They called somebody to come pick up the money. They showed up to pick up the money. They had a suspended driver's license. Said you need to send somebody else down. Sent the
Wow.
assistant manager down. Assistant manager had a warrant, all the way up to the manager. Arrested every person from that Pizza Hut, which was then off limits to most cops within that, like, I don't know, 25-mile radius, because they went,
Oh,
you shut down the whole restaurant. But
right.
I
I'd
just
be
do
afraid
my
they'd come
job.
after me or shoot me or I don't know.
It was like, my gosh, man,
Ugh.
can you just Just send somebody down that doesn't have a warrant, that's got a driver's license,
Right.
that is, doing like they're supposed to. It is hard on somebody. It's hard on the shift work is
It
just
is.
unbearable.
But when I was
Uh,
young without children, it was so
yep,
easy to just focus on myself and be like, I don't care. I want to go and do this career. I want to put my life in
yep,
danger. You don't care because you're young and you're fearless and you can take on anything.
yeah,
And I thought I could, and I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. I
yeah,
proved so much to myself and to others that of something I could do that nobody thought I could do. I mean, everybody doubted that I was ever going to carry a badge and gun. I'll just tell you that right now. But I did it. But the thing is that it's just hard. And the older you get, the more you see of life, you start to realize I'm still fearless in a way, but you are still more cautious. You think things through a little bit
oh,
more.
absolutely, yeah,
It's just age. That's what you do. You grow up, you mature. When you're young, it's like, it doesn't matter. I can do
yeah,
whatever. I'll survive anything, but you don't,
yeah.
you can't.
We still have
So
yeah. It's age, wisdom. Wisdom has its benefits. We'll
yes,
just
it does.
we'll just put it that way. So, what motivated you to write this book, Talkback Barbie, the Secret Service edition?
My dad. So my dad really motivated me to write the book. So about 5 years ago, he was like, Lauren, I think you should write a book. You have an amazing story. You did something that not many women can say they did. And not to mention, not only did I do get into the Secret Service, but it was my story working for the Secret Service that was so powerful, with me being discriminated against and being called a Barbie. And just my story was very powerful. And I was like, Dad, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to write a book. It's impossible. It's too much work. And I don't have anything to say. I don't have enough content to put into a book. So fast forward, and about a year and a half ago, we were down in Florida, and I'm just sitting there, and I looked at myself, and had some downtime. It was storming, and I was like, I'm going to write a book. So I just started typing all my thoughts, my notes, stories, whatever could come to mind, just kind of, outlining. And it just took off. And the minute I set my mind to something, I have to do it. And so the minute I started, I just continued. And it took me a little over a year. I hired a professional editor who came in and helped me. I wrote the whole book myself. And then he came in and helped me edit it. So I had chapters, everything done. And then he made it better. So I did make the book based on a true story. So there is fictional stuff in there for the reader's enjoyment and laughter. I really want people to laugh and laugh at me, with me. I don't care. I don't care which way it is. You can laugh. I just want you to laugh and just discover a whole different light of law enforcement. It's just a totally different take. It's a comedy. It's about laughter, but it's educational too. It's showing
Right.
what I went through and how hard I had to fight for what I wanted.
Well, it's a unique approach actually to telling your story. Instead of saying like a memoir type or a biography type,
Also,
it's a unique approach.
everyone keeps telling me that. They're like, this should be a memoir. And I told them, I don't want a memoir though. Memoirs to me, they can be great books, but I didn't
Right.
want it. I wanted it to be funny and humorous because all the other Secret Service books out there are so serious and they're about the career and what they did and who they
Right.
protected. And this is a totally different light. And I wanted something that would inspire women who are going to go into this, inspire teenagers who don't know what to do with their lives. Even if they don't go into law enforcement, it inspires you to fight for what you want and to fight for yourself,
Right.
and not to let a name or a nickname define who you are. So
Yeah.
there's just so many takeaways from the book.
So from the comedic from the let me try that in English. From the comedic perspective, give us just a little taste of what's inside the book.
From the comedy side,
Sure.
oh man. Okay, well, why don't I read you a couple chapter titles and you'll figure out some of the comedy in the book. So a lot of the titles have to do with Barbie, obviously, but there's Rustle Yourself Some Respect, Kiss My Ass and Company, Surfin' Sir Barbie, Demi Moore Ain't Got Nothing on Me, Talkback Barbie Graduates, driving Miss Barbie, and the list goes on and on and on. And that's just a little, I wanted it to just be funny and making fun of myself a lot. So there's a bunch of stories I could go into about the book, but one of them that I think will hit the nail on the head is that I was working a footbeat outside the White House on the south side of the White House, and an Asian man came up to me and started taking my picture. And I was annoyed, and I had already had an incident where I found my picture on Flickr, which I don't know if you remember what Flickr was. I don't even think it exists anymore, but it's a website where people just post random pictures. And lo and behold, my picture was found on there. And so when I was working at the Secret Service, so this guy starts taking pictures of me, and I'm like, sir, back up. You cannot take pictures of the Secret Service. He's like, oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I thought I was taking pictures of a movie star. I thought you were an actress. And I'm like, okay, come on. Yes. And so I told him, I said, this is a real gun and this is a real badge. I need you to step back and get away from me right now. Oh my gosh. He grabbed his camera and he ran as fast as he could. But again, the story is judging a book by its cover. He thought I was an actress and he didn't think I was real. And he didn't believe that I was a real Secret Service officer. So those are the typical stories that you're going to get in this book. It's a funny story. It's real. But it's just how my life was at the Secret Service. I was constantly being picked on too.
Did you have to get clearance to write any of it? Since it dealt with the Secret Service?
So I didn't ask for any clearance because I did this based on a true story. So it's kind of fiction, kind of true story, but it's also, I wanted it to be based on a true story because of the clearance aspect. But I also Googled everything to make sure that if I could find it on the internet, it was public knowledge, and then I put it in the book. So I made sure that everything was unclassified, and if I could find it, then I put it in there.
Well done.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people who write books about the Secret Service, it takes years for them to get it cleared. But that's why mine is fact and fiction mixed together, so that so people don't really know what's true and what's fake. And I didn't use real post names or anything like that. I didn't use any people. I made up names for people in the book. So
you didn't give any secrets away.
I gave no secrets away. Nothing.
Exactly.
Except for the secrets of my stupidity.
The FBI nor the Secret Service asked me to ask you that question. That comes just from me.
Hey, that's fine. I've gotten that question before, and I love it because it is true. I mean, people are scared. They're like, can I even interview her? She might give away some secrets, and then I'm in trouble.
No, I've interviewed a SEAL actually, and
that's amazing.
That's not come out yet, but we had to be very, very, very careful about what was said, and then some of the missions and things like that, and what was being talked about his missions. And I understand that. I was in the military as well. Wasn't a SEAL, but I do understand what classified and what unclassified is, and what could be said and what can't be said, because we don't want to put anybody in danger. We don't want to put anybody's life, whether it be their life or any of their colleagues' lives or co-workers' lives in danger, or anybody else. So,
no, exactly. I don't want to do that at all. And I went and worked for the National Counterterrorism Center after working with the Secret Service. And that was the similar thing. I was looking up different groups I worked with and stuff. And we worked with classified information, but most of the time it was unclassified information. So the stuff that I did, I was able to write about in the book. So that was good.
You had a very strong career in the government.
I did. I worked for, not too long. I didn't work very long within the government. 5.5, 6 years because we ended up moving back down to Georgia.
Well, what you've done is an amazing journey in itself. And the fact that you're a woman that achieved it is a very positive thing.
Listen, it is, and I would never change a thing. That's why my husband always jokes with me, and he's like, are you sure you really want to put this book out there? People are going to think you're a blonde bimbo. And I'm like, let them think that. I don't care. I want to put my story out there because I learned about myself through my story, but I can also teach others that it's okay. We all make mistakes. We all do stupid things. We all are sometimes judged by, you judge a book by its cover. But it's the fact that here I am almost 40 and I've learned from all these mistakes. I've grown from all these mistakes. And I was able to write a book about it so that I could go back and figure out, hey, I did this when I was young and stupid, but this is what I learned from it. This is how I grew from it. This is what I should have done but didn't do. So it's a growing and learning experience that I want to share with other people and my readers and your viewers, because I think it's so powerful as a woman to go into the field that I went into, to show that even though I was discriminated against, you can totally push through that. I look at discrimination and name calling, and I turn around and I'm like, listen, turn that into something positive. If they're calling you a name, like in high school, somebody once called me a pig, okay? Just because they wanted to hurt me, they wanted to insult me, okay? They didn't do it because I was fat or lazy or ate a lot. It was just because they wanted to hurt me. And I literally turned around and I said, thank you so much for calling me that. I love pigs. They're my favorite animals. I actually want to own one. And they looked at me, and do you know they never called me a pig again? Ever.
Yeah, it's kind of like open your eyes. That's funny.
So it's about owning it and turning it around in a positive light. And you don't have to look at anything really negatively if you turn it around correctly. And that's what the book's about too.
And that's a good thing, actually. What's your next chapter in life? You going to write another book? Does this inspire you?
I don't know. This was supposed to be one and done, but now I'm getting ideas and they're coming to my head. And right now I'm just on a mission to promote the book. I'm working so hard to get it out there. I would love to get it into a TV show. That's my ultimate goal. So I'm working really, really hard to either turn into a movie or TV show. So think Legally Blonde meets Miss Congeniality, and you kind of get a feel for what I'm going for. A good family-friendly film, something the whole family can watch. I don't know. I think there will be a number 2, but right now I'm so focused on turning it into a film or getting it out there that I don't even know if I'll have time to write another book. I might have to hire a writer.
Well, if you decide to turn it into a screenplay and a movie, you need to get a hold of me, and I'll help you to learn to do that. I did
I would
screenwriting
love
conferences
that.
for 5 years. I did screenwriting conferences to tell people how to write screenplays in Las Vegas.
Oh, I would love to work with you. Well, we have such a similar background. We could make it quirky and funny, but you could add in like more real law enforcement.
Absolutely. Or I just help you write your story, because that's profound as well.
Perfect.
Talkback Barbie would make a fantastic Legally Blonde. I know the woman that wrote Legally Blonde. So
Do you?
I do.
That's
We
amazing.
write,
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
Oh, well,
we are good
we need to
friends.
get together. We need to work this out. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And her partner, Karen Lutz, and her partner, Kirsten Smith, both went on to write what 10 Things I Hate About You,
Oh, I love that
a
movie
whole,
too.
like 10 different movies, fantastic movies.
Wow.
But yeah, it'd be good. That'd be good. You have a life motto about tripping and falling.
Yes, I do. I do. Basically, it says if you trip and fall, laugh first, and then get up and keep going. And the reason I say that is because laughter, I discovered after writing this book, laughter is the best medicine. Laughter is going to get you through everything. Your mistakes, it increases your endorphins. It makes you feel like a happier person. Even if you are the saddest person on earth, if you can just burst out laughing at nothing, they say right there, your endorphins are increased and you already feel happier. And so that's my goal in life. Is the book is awesome. It just sheds a lot on obviously females in the workplace and male dominated environments, but it sheds so much more than that. And it's just laugh at your past, laugh at your mistakes, but keep going. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. And that's pretty much the sum of Talkback Barbie. If you keep going and you don't let anybody tell you that you can't accomplish your dreams, then you know what? If you fail, it's on you. The only person it's on is you, because you let other people tell you who you are and who you should be. And that if that's not you, then what good is that? So you need to tune that out or turn it into good positivity. Like I said, the nickname Talkback Barbie could be a bad thing, but I turned it into something positive. And if you can do that, you can accomplish anything that you want. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't do it.
I was going to ask you if there was one more thing that, this is one more thing before you go. So if there was anything else that you felt was
There it is.
words of wisdom, you just gave us words of wisdom.
I did. I'm sorry. That was a long-winded answer,
Oh,
right?
no, but that's okay. This works. This is a conversation. This is great. So let's talk about how somebody can find Talkback Barbie, the Secret Service edition.
Everything is on my website. So if you just go to www.talkbackbarbie.com, you will find everything you need to know about me, all my social media handles. Everything's pretty much Talkback Barbie. You can shoot me an email at talkbackbarbie@gmail.com. Everything's on my website, past interviews, past podcasts, past TV shows. Everything's on there. Pictures of me in the Secret Service. If you want to see a few of those, you can go on there and find it.
That's fantastic. Lauren, I want to thank you for being on One More Thing Before You Go, for sharing your journey and your wisdom with everybody. So I appreciate everything that you've accomplished. I appreciate you as a father. I think your father would be very, very proud of you for what you've done, where you've accomplished, and where you've come from. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure talking to you.
And for the viewers and the listeners out there, thank you very much for listening to One More Thing Before You Go. I really appreciate you joining the conversation. Look for us on Apple, Spotify, and any other platforms that are out there. Watch for our iOS and our Google Play Store apps coming out very soon. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. That's beforeyougopodcast.com. Tell your story, share your expertise, contribute to the blog, and subscribe to the newsletter. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.
And one more thing before you go. Have a nice day, have a nice week, and thanks for listening.
One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life podcast, is a creation of One More Thing Productions, established 2010, all rights reserved.